Welcome to Poetry Analysis. In our last lesson, we looked at persona and an addressee. Today, we will continue by looking at characterization, tone, mood, and theme. Let us be together. Characterization. In poetry, characterization is the process of describing the personality of a persona or an addressee. So in this case, we are describing the characters of the persona or an addressee. We are now describing how do they behave or their behavior in the poem. The steps in characterization applies to both persona and addressee, and is also applied to some people who are found in the poem despite not being a persona or an addressee. So when a poet is presenting the poem, we may find out that in the poem there are some people who have maybe just been mentioned or they are taking part in the poem, but they are not persona or an addressee. So we also describe them using the same steps that we use when describing the persona or an addressee. When giving such a trait to a character or when we are describing the behavior of a character, we always use adjectives. So it should be noted that whenever we are describing the behavior of a character, we should use adjectives. Ways of characterization. Now, how can you know that a particular person is hardworking, lazy, loving, wise, or others? So there are so many words, but in this lesson, we will look at 2 specific ways through which a behavior of a persona or an addressee can be known in a poem. So we have direct characterization and indirect characterization. Let us discuss each one in detail. Direct characterization. This is a way whereby the poet directly reveals the behavior of a persona or an addressee using clear adjectives. So in this way, a reader does not struggle to find the behavior of the persona or an addressee since they are right there in the poem. For example, let us look at the following poem and know how the poet mentions words that help us know the behavior of a particular character. Wonderful women. Nyagondwe the lady, loved by everyone and always ready to help and advise. She's just empathetic, alike with Miss Malinga, and not different from Miss Kulangu, another saint of genuine concern, a woman so helpful and kind, perpendicular to Miss Nabolo. So the traits have already been said by the writer. So we can say that the women in the poem are empathetic, helpful, and kind. How do we know these ones? We have known these characters because they have been mentioned in the poem. Indirect characterization. This is when the poet leaves the duty of describing the behavior of a character in the hands of a reader. Now it becomes the duty of the reader to now identify and describe the behaviors of the persona or an addressee, since the poet himself or herself does not reveal the characters or does not describe the traits of the people taking part in the poem. So how do we find now indirect characterization? We use 5 words: speech, thoughts, effects on others, actions, general looks. So these points can be shortened as being still: S for speech, T thoughts, E effects on others, A action, L looks. Now let us come to speech. So through what a persona or an addressee says and how they say them can describe their behavior. Even in our daily lives, how a person speaks and how he speaks those words describes who the person is. Let us look at this poem. Tomorrow. Forsaken I can be, hated and ridiculed, trampled upon like an ant. My son will surely come. So let us imagine a girl saying these words. What character can you give her? So definitely, we can say that the character is hopeful. This is seen through what they say, that despite meeting harsh conditions, this girl anticipates for a good life ahead. So she still dreams of the beautiful life ahead. thoughts. So in this way, a person's trait can be revealed through what they think when they are alone. So whatever they think when they are alone can also help us to describe their behavior. Let us look at this poem. The dreamer. In her brain, she thinks of becoming a nurse. Still thinking, she contemplates of becoming a teacher. All I want is service for humanity. The thought comes again. I hate seeing people suffer and do. She thinks further. In that poem, the girl appears to be considerate and ambitious, seen through her thought of working in humanitarian and predominantly charitable jobs. So we can see that whenever the girl thinks of her future, she just wants to help people. That's being considerate and ambitious. Effects on others. Through how other characters respond to the deeds of a persona or an addressee, behavior of such a character can be described. So when we are reading a poem, we should check if a persona or an addressee brings joy or sorrow on the face of others. So this can be seen through what the fellow characters say about that particular character. For example, in this poem, my teacher. Seeing you coming, beautiful smiles emerge on our lips. The environment suddenly turns joyful. All the time you are near, no one shows fear. Our eyes become wet with tears of happiness. So, from the effects that the addressee has on the persona and the other persons in the poem, it can be rightly said that the addressee is so friendly. Addressee is so approachable. He's so flexible that no one fears the teacher. What else can you say about the teacher? Describe. Let us look at actions. So it is whereby the behavior of a persona or an addressee is known through every little thing that they do. So whatever they do in the poem reveals their behavior. So sometimes this way also involves looking at what kind of people do they associate with. Do they associate with youth? Do they associate with the drunkards? Do they associate with prostitutes, or whom do they associate with? What places do they like going to? Do they like to go to church, to mosques? Do they like to go to clubs or to discos, or where do they like going to? How do they behave? What do they avoid doing? So when we are looking at the actions, we also consider these questions. For example, let us look at this poem, The Worshipper. My son, why do you hate going to church, but enjoy praying in bar joints? As you speak in tongues at the sweetness of liquor, taking a beer bottle as your Bible, a cigarette has become your hymn book. Where will girls take you to? Girls who only at your pocket do look. You will kill me surely. So from the poem, we can describe the addressee as being immoral and inconsiderate. So we have known these traits because of their actions. They like alcohol, they don't like going to church, the addressee likes trending with girls. All those actions has described their behavior. Now let us come to looks. Using the looks of a persona, a hidden personality can be taught. This means that the personality of a person and addressee can be identified by looking at, should be their dressing, their smile, presence or absence of wrinkles on their faces, eye contact, their facial expression and appearance. So in general life, they say that we should not judge a book by its cover. But I want to tell you, in as far as literature is concerned, we should do so. For example, let us look at the following poem to understand this concept as we describe the character of the persona. Life. In tattered clothes, he wore a sad face. His skin was scratched, a sign of lack of soap and mafuta. On the cracked lips, he constructed a forceful smile. His lips thin and sullen, the bare feet told the onlookers the state of the man as he increased the pace on the way to the well. Oops! Due to hunger, he fell. So from the looks of the man in the poem, the trend for him are that he is poor and depressed. So because we have looked how the poem has described the man, how the man looks, now we can give a trend that he is poor and he is also depressed. Let us come to tone. This is the psychological feeling of the writer towards the issues being presented in the poem. So such feeling is seen through how the words in the poem sound. Tone represents the temper and attitude in which a writer was during the time of writing. So an answer of tone should also be in an adjective form. So we should use adjectives when we are also giving the tone of the poem. So how to capture tone? How can we capture tone? So when reading a poem, take yourself as being the one speaking its words. How do you feel as a talker of such words? So answers to the questions of tone can be ironic, heartbroken, sober, thoughtful, joyful, confused, loving, and others. Let us look at this poem. Enough. You are a fool, stupid and silly. Away from me now, for my hands can crush your heart, as soon send you to the grave. You just broke my heart, as you also broke your vow. So undeniably, the tone of that poem is angry, since the writer appears to have been very angry at the time of writing due to the heartbreak imposed on by the addressee. So it means that the addressee has just broken the heart of the persona. Therefore, the persona is such an angry person, and then the tone is angry. Mood. This is a feeling that a reader is left with after reading or listening to the poem. How to capture mood? So how can we capture a mood? To find mood, read the poem and thereafter ask yourself, how do I feel? So once you have finished reading the poem, now ask yourself, how do I feel? Both tone and mood are subjective. When we say subjective, we mean that what I feel like is good cannot be good to others. So it means that we have different perspective when it comes to mood. So what can make me sorrow cannot make other person sorrow. That is what subjective mean. So common moods that readers are left with are sympathetic, sad, joyful, and others. However, we should avoid general answers whenever we are giving the mood of the poem. We should avoid saying bad or good. But we can sometimes say sad or joyful and not bad or good. Let us come to theme. So this is the main idea found after reading and understanding the work of literature. A poem can have many themes. A theme needs to have an ending effect so as to show how various elements of such a story connect with other. Surely, we cannot claim to have understood a poem or any literary work if we fail to come up with a single theme. So whenever we are reading a poem, to show our understanding, we should come up with a theme. So where to find themes in the poem? How can we find a theme, or where can we find a theme? 1. The title of the poem. So some cases, the title of a poem can be a theme on its own. What is needed is just the evidence from inside it so as to be supported. For example, imagine a poem having a title, The Love of Mother. So in this case, this will be one of the themes for the poem, only that it lacks supporting details which can be found after reading the whole poem. So after reading the whole poem, now you can have the detailed information on the theme. The trait of the persona and the addressee. From any behavior you find for a persona or addressee using whichever way you choose, theme can be developed. The only difference is in the part of speech used and explanation. So when we are describing or we are giving themes, we use nouns. While when we are describing the behavior, we use adjectives. So from those adjectives, we can also find some themes. For example, if I say Miss Makina is loving, loving is an adjective, hence being the character trait for Miss Makina. A noun made from that adjective will be love, which is now a theme. The poet's direct statement. Some poets plainly present themes for a certain poem just as it was for direct mentioning of character traits when we had to discuss characterization. So some poets clearly or plainly mention some themes in a poem. Let us look at this poem. A family so united, everyone smiling, smiles strong enough to heal. Happiness and unity reign the family. So from the poem, the poet has revealed some themes, unity as well as happiness. The direct speech of the persona. When a persona mentions the main ideas in the poem, that would be a theme in itself. For example, in this poem, maybe. With whom will I do? Who will be my confidant? Where will I rest all my jokes on? Who will be by my side? Will my life become sweet again? I will miss you. These are the evils of death. So I'm sure through the poem, we can now answer that the theme can be evils of death because the persona has mentioned them. This marks the end of our lesson today. In our next lesson, we will continue from here. We are dealing with the poem so that we finish everything about poetry before we go to other literary works as short stories or novels. All the best.